Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Ramping Up Your Digital CX Strategy, Adaptation of Omnichannel and Conversational Support, presented by Customer Experience Update and sponsored by Sinbird. I'm Tori, the webinar coordinator of Customer Experience Update, and I'm excited to bring you this fresh session on developing a customer-centric digital strategy and ensuring seamless interaction across channels. I'm really looking forward to speaking with Michael McMillan in what I'm sure will be an informative conversation. Also, we will be recording this webinar in case you have to leave early. We'll be sending the link to the landing page in the chat box right now. Up next. Before we go any further, I want to thank Sinbird for sponsoring this webinar and helping us to make this happen. Sinbird believes conversations are at the heart of building relationships and getting things done. As such, they built the world's most proven conversations platform for mobile apps across chat, voice, and video. Industry leaders use Sinbird to drive increased transactions and loyalty for hundreds of millions of users every month. Learn more at sinbird.com. So thanks again, Sinbird. Up next. So let's get some technical things out of the way. Please feel free to ask questions during today's session. You can do so by submitting them into the questions panel on the right side of your screen. Don't forget to stick around until the end of our Q&A session to get even more fresh insight from our panelists. My wonderful colleague Stephanie will be fielding your questions today. She'll be happy to answer anything you might have. And just to prove it, you can type hello into the questions panel to let her know that you're listening. Lastly, if you have any audio issues during today's presentation, you may choose to dial in by phone. You can do so by selecting the More button in the upper right portion of your screen and then selecting the Switch to Phone option. The dial-in information is also available on the screen, but Stephanie can relay it to you at any point if you need it. Up next. Again, today I'm really excited to hear from Michael McMillan. Michael is an accomplished customer experience, sales, and leadership expert with a proven track record of driving success. He is passionate about helping businesses transform their customer journey and evaluate their sales performance. With extensive experience in both B2B and B2C markets, he excels at crafting tailored strategies that foster strong customer relationships, enhance brand loyalty, and fuel revenue growth. Leveraging a unique blend of strategic thinking and tactical execution, Michael has consistently delivered results for organizations across diverse industries, including technology and customer goods. And recognized for his ability to inspire and lead high-performing teams, Michael firmly believes in empowering individuals to reach their full potential. As a lifelong learner, he continuously seeks new opportunities to grow, expand his skill set, while sharing his knowledge and insights with others. So without further ado, take it away, Michael.
Thank you so much, Tori. Everyone, I'm so happy to have you here today. Today, we're going to be talking through omnichannel, some conversational support, and kind of how those two blend together into a great digital customer experience. I think the biggest thing to first start off with, though, is talking through, how the shift in the world of business and our customer experience has changed so much over the last few years. We've seen such a enormous demand on online and text-based support, which is really what's been spurring such a huge innovational patterning inside of the world of customer experience. And it's becoming so much more relevant both to our revenue generation and our revenue protection in the customer experience side, and really impacting the overall customer journey. And so we're going to kind of start talking about that and really hopefully starting a conversation inside your organizations, if they're not already beginning, about how do you do this and really what first steps do you need to be taking. And on that front, I wanted to start this conversation, since we are only going to be going through this for about 45 minutes here. So with talking about what are those initial first steps? What are those things you need to be doing tomorrow or even today to really get this thing going inside your business? The first step I can't stress enough is talking about assessing your current customer strategy. This is involved with building a customer journey map. If that's something you don't have today, I cannot begin to tell you how critical this is for your organization. The patterning and steps into doing so, you can actually find throughout online, also on my website, but it's really about taking and understanding the journey your customer goes from the point of engagement through your marketing and advertising, through your sales cycles, and then all the way into how you deliver either your product or services and beyond, making sure that you document and list out every step of the way that they go through. And one of the best ways I've done this is playing the part as a customer and really experiencing it for myself. It's both frightening and very eye-opening on how your actual business is running and how your staff is actually supporting your customer every step of the way, and just really getting a good documentation of what that looks like. The next is to research and identify suitable AI-powered chatbots and virtual assistant solutioning. The reason I put this in here is because this is the future. This is not something where it's like this is going to come. This is really almost like, I would say, like back in the 90s or 80s when we're talking about voicemail, where it was a new solution. It was so innovative. Now it's everyone has it and no one checks it. But it's one of those things where it's coming, and you need to make sure you are on the forefront of this and already being prepared and proactive to research what are these tools and which of these tools will apply to my business and my customer base, and really understanding which one of your customer bases are going to be needing it, and where are those niche tools inside of these that really apply to your specific industry and business type. Finally, is develop an action plan for integrating omni-channel communication and conversational support. Once you know what tools are out there, it's so critical to start laying out a path into getting into some of these tools and trying them out. My biggest thing that I always tell my customers is to make sure that when you're looking at this, do not look at this like in development world, we call it waterfall. We build it all up, we deploy it, and we hope it works well. I really stress, do this as an agile approach. Put it in, see what's working, see what's not, make some tweaks, make some changes along the way, or just rip it all out and start again. Do not be afraid of trying some things on your customers. Now, with that being said, I'd always suggest and always stress, find your customers who are willing to let you do this. That's why I always suggest having a good alpha and beta teams with inside my customer base. Those early adopters who are willing to try some things out for you, give you constructive criticism and feedback, but in a closed environment. You don't want them, of course, going on Google or any other feedback areas and blasting your business. So really try to keep it contained, but don't be afraid to play with them. They will appreciate it and see that you are trying to push forward to do better for them. So without further ado, let's talk about what this digital customer experience thing is. For so long, we've talked about CX, customer experience. And as the digital world has begun to take hold even more and more every day, I mean, you can't even almost turn on anything online and not see things talking about AI and machine learning and chatbots. The digital customer experience is really that experience that your customer has online or connected to the internet. This can be through so many different channels. This could be through messaging, chat, SMS, through voice over internet, whichever it may be. But it's understanding from your website to even your chat engagements, what is it that you are producing for your customers and how are they experiencing you online or through mobile or through whatever other means, and really making sure you have a firm grasp on how your business is being portrayed. In the world of marketing, we talk a lot about understanding your personas, and I cannot stress to you enough of how important this is even in a digital experience. Nowadays, it's not just the young generation, it's not the new generation up and coming who's utilizing these tools. It's every generation, from the boomers all the way over to the new Gen Xers and Gen Ys, et cetera. And you need to make sure you understand who your customer base is and what they want from each channel and what channel they're looking to communicate, interact with you on. So with that being said, let's talk a little bit about omni-channel communications. First of all, for you guys who are not familiar with the term, omnichannel communications is just really an industry fancy way of saying all the communication types. This can be voice, this can be text, this can be SMS, this can be even WhatsApp, this can be your social media. This is everything, right? So with omnichannel, we're really talking about unifying and bringing those channels so you are available to your customer on those channels in which they want to interact with you on. Now, a key point with omnichannel, I will tell you, is this. There is good and there's bad when it comes to omnichannel. The good is that when you become more available to your customers on channels that they look to engage with you on, they become happy because now you're available to them on those channels. The issue is, as you turn up more channels, you now have a larger support pool in which you now need to provide support on. No more is it just a phone call that's coming in and you can predict how many calls are going to come in. Now you might have web chats, you have emails, you have text messaging. You might even be on some of the other alternative platforms like WhatsApp, WeChat, Kakao Talk, etc. Every channel that you turn on is a channel you now need to monitor, and you need to have very strict key performance indicators and service levels that are tied to those. What I mean by this is when I get into service levels is what is our response time going to be? How fast does our customers expect us to answer? Because I'll tell you, if you all of a sudden open up WhatsApp, which is a very big trend inside of a lot of the both consumer and business markets and with the customers that we work with, we're noticing that the demand for response time is very short. You're talking seconds. Where for instance, a phone call, the industry standard is pretty well set at about an 80-20. So this is 80% of calls answered in 20 seconds or less, meaning callers are willing to wait for maybe a couple minutes on hold before they get you. Now, of course, that depends on your industry. Certain industries, they won't hold. Like in healthcare, you got to be Johnny on the spot and getting that call. But in other industries, they're understanding and accepting of it, especially as your brand gets a little bit larger, and if you can offer alternative tools. Now, final element I'm going to mention here on omnichannel is that one area that can get very tricky is multi-channel engagement. So what this means is, and listen, I'm a consumer just like you guys are, and I've done it, right? I try to hit people on multiple channels. So if I'm pissed off at my airline because I just got a flight delayed, I'm going to, of course, go berate them potentially on Twitter. I'm going to text message the new little text platform they have, and I might be going calling and seeing how long it's going to for me to sit on hold. Luckily, with my diamond status on Delta, it's usually not too long, but I'll tell you, right after COVID, I mean, it could have been sometimes up to 8 to 9 hours before I heard back from Delta. And it just showed you, and in contrast, when I text, I was getting responses within minutes. So your customers are going to be testing you and seeing what channels work best. And when they start seeing and not seeing that consistency, they will start hitting you on multiple channels. What that occurs now is you have one customer with one need and maybe 3 or 5 different engagements coming in. In the world of the call center and support teams, this now means I have 5 interactions hitting my team for one customer. That's a problem unless you are utilizing good omni-channel tools, which understands all of those engagements are one customer. And now your system is smart enough and set up correctly to where it can pick the engagement level that A, your customer prefers, and B, is the most efficient for a utilization and efficiency perspective from the agent who's going to support them. I can't stress to you enough, this is a huge miss with so many organizations that we work with and consult with, where they think that they need to respond on all, or they silo them. They say, oh, our chat's handled by marketing and our emails handled by this support group who only does text, and our phones are handled by the call center. The problem with that, of course, is I have 3 teams. I have 3 labor sources that are now supporting that one customer. My cost of customer support just went up 3x. So I really encourage you, if you're not utilizing a unified platform for your omni-channel, this is one place. This could be a huge win for you guys for saving money as well as improving the overall customer experience, because you're going to now learn where your customer likes to engage with you, what their preferences are, and where are you the best at performing at. And then you can work towards engaging them there. The final piece I want to add on the omni-channel side is one thing, and it talks about it here in the description we gave here, which is the ability for customers to jump platforms, and or the ability for you as the business or the provider to also move them in the channels in which they're communicating with you on. I want to give you a major word of warning here. When you are moving a customer from one channel to another, it is so critical that you make sure you A, have their permission, and B, you move them to a channel they want, and actually C, that your channel hasn't failed them in the past. So many times I watch businesses, for instance, they will receive an email inquiry in of some type of customer support. They will respond back with a link to their knowledge base system online, which is a self-serving tool. The problem is if you actually tracked their customer journey and had a system that was tracking that, you would have probably seen they were already on your website searching for all of this information to try to find this answer. They emailed you because it failed. The average customer, just so you know, right now, today, takes between 7 and 11 attempts to solve their own issue, either online or through some type of community groups to fix their own problem before they will engage you and call you. So this means is when that phone call comes in, this is not just a person who's calling because they have an issue that just popped in their head. Your company has failed this customer up to 7 to 11 times. They're already escalated. So why wouldn't you make that phone channel amazing, right? Or see what other channels they're already attempting you on and try to get a little proactive where they could self-service or they could engage you through, say, chat or web chat and take care of themselves. Very big thing, very hot topic, I will tell you, with most of our customer base that we work with, because that is the place that we see so much need and demand, is understanding in that customer journey the places of failure that you're already failing your customer and those areas that are already escalating them to where their customer satisfaction is already down, and you need to build it back up so they can continue to stay a good loyal customer of your business. As far as conversational support, like I was saying in the beginning, there is literally probably not a website or blog or news channel that is not talking about AI. Just this morning, I was on 3 different interviews with some of the publications that I work with. Every single conversation, no matter what it was about, we ended on the conversation of AI. What is this thing? And today we're going to talk specifically around AI around the world of conversational support. Conversational support, for you guys who are not familiar, this is those AI tools like the dreaded chatbots that I know probably most of you cringe when I even say the word, but it also goes into so much more. There are new tools coming out, tools that are allowing for companies to actually leverage automated computer generated voices who can actually facilitate like a virtual agent. And this isn't like some Mad Max thing back in the 80s. These are real human voices who've been sampled, some of these millions and millions of samplings, to where when you heard this person's voice and their response time, I would test you to say you would probably never know you're talking to a computer. And in the world of, for instance, outbound lead generation, or in the world of survey follow-ups for post-service calls for service organizations, or even for product companies who are just trying to make sure their product got through Amazon correctly, these are huge tools because it allows for now your agents to not have to do them. You don't have to have this army of call center agents who are making these calls and doing these surveys. Now you have a fully automated tool who's going out there collecting the breadth of this data, and then you can escalate the ones that need to be escalated to the agents to where they can do the work they love to do. I cannot stress to you enough the importance of that last statement. I've ran call centers now for just over 20 years. It's my family's business. I'm one of those weird ducks in a room. I'm a second generation call center outsourcer. And so much of the time we see a lot of companies, they like to shed off to us a lot of this busy work, as we call it. And you notice the agents get very discouraged with that busy work because what they want to do is the complex stuff. They want the hard questions. They want the things they need to go research and go find. This is where AI has such a huge opportunity inside of all of your businesses, both in digital and in voice and traditional customer experience. The more you embrace it, what you're going to find is you're not going to just improve the customer experience, but you're also going to improve your employee experience. Your EX ratios in our company alone, when we deployed one of our conversational support engines, we actually had to take over survey systems for our company, as we own a service company as well. And at that business, once the AI took over, we actually saw an increase by almost 22% in our employee experience. And what that resulted in was better support for our customers. And our CSATs and our NPS scores went up significantly because now our employees were able to do the work they loved and the hard work to actually support and help someone rather than the quote unquote busy work. So I'll end it with this on the conversational support. Is it perfected? No, it's not. Conversational support, most of them you'll notice are built on machine learning algorithms, meaning that you need to teach this. You need to teach the system the data and the information, your processes, and how you communicate, your style of communication. Doing that is like raising a child. I always make that comparison. I have 3 children. I have 2 girls and a son, and each one of them were very unique. And just like that, your machine learning algorithm or your AI system is just like one of your kids. You need to teach it the things you've learned, the lessons you've learned along the way. What are the good things? What are the bad things? What things should you do? What things shouldn't you do? And make sure you're propagating it with a lot of data. If you don't have this data available to you, or you don't have your data centralized, I would tell you this is going to be very tough for you to get started with. AI systems and machine learning algorithms really excel and are successful based upon the data set that's available for them to learn from. This is why we see so many failed attempts of organizations who will launch these chatbots on their website and interact with you just to get your customers more pissed off at you, because all they're doing is asking the same question over and over again because they don't have the depth of knowledge to be able to ask anything more. It's like your kids. When you tell them to do something and they give you the wonderful why. Well, why, Dad? Well, why would I do that? Oh, that's why? Well, why? That's what your chatbots are basically becoming. They're your kids. They're asking why, but you're not giving them the responses to understand and learn and grow from this. So the more you understand, as you are looking at towards a conversational support and AI machine learning type of environment for your organization, especially in your digital customer experience and your real-time customer experience, make sure you focus on your data. It's so critical. Make sure you partner closely with your IT organizations. Ask them about how are we centralizing our data? How are we bringing this breadth and this huge amount of data into one space? Do we have a data lake built? Do we have a data warehouse? How do we access that? What are the compliancy regulations that we need to be aware of? And now how are we going to plug in this new AI tool to be able to learn from that? And the final element on there for your IT groups is understanding too, are you set up for both structured and unstructured data? I'm not going to get into that too much. I'm not going to put my nerd hat on too bad today, but it is something that they'll understand, and understand why you're asking that is because, again, with unstructured data, there's different mechanisms that your AI tool can use to leverage it if it's set up that way. If you're not using an AI tool that can leverage that type of data set, you need to be aware of it because it could eliminate an entire educational process for your AI that you could have had available to you with a different system. So getting to the integrations of omnichannel and conversational support tools. This intersection has been a long time coming, and it's been around for a while. What we're seeing now is this, the initial demand for this really came from those cross-channel communications demands. People calling in, but we needed to send them follow-ups through chat, or we got a phone call from a person and a text message and we needed to merge the two. Or what we're seeing in the service industry, which is very cool, is if someone is calling in with a service issue, let's say on their HVAC system, we're walking them through, and we, instead of just doing verbal diagnostics, we have them then turn on their FaceTime or whatever video platform they're utilizing. And now we can show in real time the HVAC systems, the boards, the lights, the error codes, and the agent can see this and then do almost like a tele-support visit for them. And all that's billable now, right? So the companies now have a new mechanism for revenue generation. They're not having to roll trucks, which is a huge cost to businesses with the current cost of fuel. And the customer is getting instant gratification, because that at the end of the day is the real want from customers. They don't want to wait for your business to come back to them with an answer. They want their answers and they want it now. And that's where digital customer experience really plays, is in that quick instant answer ability. Where conversational support now comes in is to be able to bridge those gaps utilizing automation and technology, and to be able to remove the need for additional people to support that. So in that same example I just gave you, which is talking about the person calling in and us going on a video chat to now look out physically at this HVAC system, There is now new systems. What it actually will do is it can actually scan a QR code that is on the HVAC system, which will give the agent actually access into that system because it might be on the Internet of Things through the powered by the internet, access it through the public internet, and then be able to do a virtual diagnostics check on that system, find out what's wrong with it, send the part if needed, or perform maybe a software update on that and fix the person's problem. Now, I understand for maybe some of you this has no relevance. Maybe you just maybe sell a product that it's a, for instance, I worked heavily with the cosmetics industry, right? You don't need to do this for a person selling, buying lipstick. But there is a different level of engagement you can have for them. If, for instance, they got a shade that didn't match exactly what their skin tone was or what they thought it was when they saw it inside of the store, because the lighting, of course, in the store is perfect and their home is not, or the daylight's different, you can now even do a video chat with them and maybe do a video consultation with them, and you can sell it. Hey, we'll do a makeup consultation with you. We're seeing this in makeup organizations already with these virtual consultations. Some of them selling these services as much as $200 to $500 for a 1 hour session of engagement. But think about the lifetime value that that's producing for them. The actual memories of the customer that they'll have with that. They went online, maybe they complained, or maybe they didn't. Maybe they just asked a question of, I'm not sure what makeup I should get. And now they offered a real-time solution that can actually start a video conversation, get the person understanding what type of makeup shades is best suited for their skin tones, and potentially even offer them cross services through maybe different partnerships of fashion for clothing or hair design, etc. There's endless opportunities here. And the revenue opportunities with digital customer experience cannot even be listed on any screen there is. They're endless. But the way to this is understanding, do we have the data to understand our customer? And do we know the journey they like to go through and what are the needs they're having? And then the artificial intelligence aspects of this is, how do we leverage those tools to be able to do those diagnostics checks? Because I didn't mention it, but I should have said, when they do the diagnostic checks with the HVAC company we work with, that is all done automated. The system actually runs a full diagnostics checks for the agent and then just comes back with the results. Red light, green light kind of thing, or yellow light. And it tells them, here's what's right, here's what's wrong, here's what you need to do, and even can script out for them what to tell the customer on what they could do or what's going to need to be done next. And it's monitoring that conversation in real time for any compliance issues, quality checks, etc. Now, I know when I've even been through this, and as a business owner myself, I hear this and I'm like, wow, I'm just hearing money, money, money of more licensing and additional money that I'm putting out each month on my burn. What I will tell you though is, as you dig into this, you don't need to jump in both feet. You can put your toe in the water here. Start with one thing that you can find that your customer will be impacted with and that you can automate. Take the savings of either labor or from new revenue generation and then apply it into the next thing, and then the next and the next. Before you know it, you're going to end up having a very robust automational system out there that's allowing for your business to engage with your customers like you've never seen before. So rather than just talking in theory and high level perspectives, I did want to get into some real life case studies. There are some amazing success stories that have already been occurring in this world, both from an omni-channel and conversational support perspective. One of the more well-known ones, especially in the world of chatbots, which again, I know it's almost becoming a dirty word in the industry, is the Amtrak story. For you guys who are not familiar on the Amtrak story, the Amtrak story is pretty incredible, actually. It's all about a chatbot named Julie. So Amtrak, quite a few years ago, started Julie as an AI-powered virtual assistant. Their idea was to streamline customer support and really just handle all these inquiries that they're getting per year. Now they're up to over 5 million inquiries per year that Julie is supporting. It's assisting customers with everything from booking, providing information and train schedules, and just answering general information like even station location and how to get there from where they're at. The beauty of this tool was that it increased the speed in which Amtrak can respond to its customers. And more than that, it really gave the customer what they wanted. they just wanted an answer. And more so is they wanted to be able to do it from their phone. They didn't want to, and they didn't want to call. They wanted to be able to go on somewhere, ask a question, get an answer. And as you guys know, for any of you who ride trains, you know they're very Johnny on the spot when it comes to their schedules most of the time. And you need to make sure you have the understanding of those schedules, locations, etc., so that you're not going to miss your train and or be confused with what cabin you're in or car you're in and how and what the length of the trip may be. These are all things that Julie's now started providing for them. This has reduced their overall headcount in demand for their call centers significantly. And the increase in customer satisfaction has become so great that it's really resurged the love of riding a train again for Amtrak. And there's so many great stories about what it's done inside their case study. If you'd like to read the case study in full, because I obviously won't have time to go through the whole thing, you can actually go to my website at cxmike.com/case study. There you're going to find links to a number of different stories, case studies, success solutionings from a number of companies out there, including the Amtrak story. I would encourage you. The Amtrak one is so well documented. This has been out for a few years now, and it can show you the path in which they went there. But I will tell you this, the key to the Amtrak story was the data. They already had the data set ready to help educate Julie, and they took their time. They made sure they educated Julie to the fullest degree. They had alpha and beta teams available to be able to test pilot this and have their AI system learn from before they deployed it to the masses. And when they did deploy it, they still had a backstop of a live human being who was there to make sure they could take over in case there was something that Julie was not able to help support. But when that happened, they re-educated Julie and made sure she was even stronger going forward. Now, today, Julie, in my opinion, is probably one of the strongest chatbots on the internet. It's an amazing solution out there. Is it perfect? Nope. Is it great? Yes. And it's something you can really model off of how they did it. The other great story I will tell you about is Sephora. Sephora is a leading beauty retailer here in the United States, and they implemented an AI-powered chatbot on Facebook. Now, it is so specific through Facebook Messenger. And what I love about this story was they really understood who she was. And when I say she, it's their customer. They understood who their customer persona was to a T. And they realized their customer, their age profile, the social media platform they like to use at that point when they deployed this, and it was a Facebook world, and they wanted a message. And what they wanted to do was be able to have a conversation around their makeup recommendations, their preferencing, and the products that were going to be available to them. When they built this chatbot, they really took a long time to make sure it was well versed in the subtleties of their industry and the demands of their customer base and how it was going to need to be portrayed, the communication styling, how the person wanted to be talked to, the type of words, the grammatical utilization inside of the chat. And even more than that, in-depth knowledge of each individual product that was available through Sephora. In doing so, they created a customer experience environment in a digital environment with no human interaction demand that didn't just produce more sales, it wowed their customers. And you were really, as you go through this and you read this, you're going to see the testimonials and just the impact this had on their customer base. It was, needless to say, profound. And to this day, you can still see the talk about this chatbot who has really become a makeup expert and what a great revenue producer for Sephora. And again, this just went back to a great understanding of their customer, a very good understanding of their journey, and then where they could plug in to help support their customer to get in the store and maximize their ability to generate revenue from that customer. Really a fantastic story, something I would encourage you to read. There's others up there, ones from Domino's Pizza, Nike, and so many others. These companies, and I know these are all mega companies, and I use these because, of course, they're well known, but there's industries across the board who are using this. We have a small service organization actually in Tennessee that we support and we consult with on their customer experience. that we deployed a simple AI chat solutioning for their service company. We more than tripled their customer base. Mind you, this is a company with only about, I think it was 23 employees when we started consulting with them. And now they're actually well on the path. They're projected by the end of next year to be just over 100 employees. They've almost 4x their trucks and on a great path. And the best part of all that is their customer satisfaction scores and their NPS scores are through the roof. And one of the biggest things we hear constantly is it's amazing how fast you're able to respond. And the key there is that they believe it's the company responding, because it is. Even though it is an AI system, when it's educated right, your AI bot can become your brand and your business, but it's about educating it. And again, treating it like a child and teaching it the rules of the road to be able to be successful in life for the company's brand and culture. And I can't stress enough, when you go through this next path and if you start to look towards taking that next step in your journey here, the first step is go experience your business yourself. That is the best place to begin. Think of yourself and your demographic. Where do you go? What are you on? Are you on TikTok flipping through the videos? Are you on Facebook still, reading your family's posts and friends' posts to see what they're up to or who they're dating? Are you on Insta? Where are you? Wherever you are, go now seek the brands or your brand there, because most of the time your customers might be something similar to you. And also then go to your customers, your most common customer, and ask them, where are you at? And where do you seek me at? By asking those two pieces, yourself and your customer, you're going to open your eyes to how your customers look and seek your business out. And once you know that, you then need to see, how are you supporting it? Are you even there? Or are they just yelling into a black hole? One of the scariest things for most businesses is when they open their eyes to seeing where their customers are seeking them out, and then realizing their company is not even responding, but they are being responded to. And who they're getting responded to are usually the people you don't want responding to. It's either going to be your competitors, maybe not, it's rare, but more times than not, it's people who know nothing about your business, former customers, or people who don't even know anything. And those are the people who are responding on your behalf. Twitter is a great example of this. You go look and there's certain brands who are not represented there, and constantly people are asking for support from the brand on Twitter. But guess what? The brand's not there or not even paying attention to it. Or they have a page, but it hasn't been posted on or looked at in years. But yet people are responding to those questions, and many times wrong. This is why the importance of a digital customer experience solution for your business is so mission critical to you, and making sure that you have it well thought out, well understood, and well planned so you can be where your customer wants you to be, and making sure you have a plan to support that customer both through your human support and automation to be able to be on those channels and give them that wow experience that will drive your company to the next level. So I thank you so much for your time. I thank you for being able to take a minute and just learn a little bit more about digital customer experience with omnichannel and conversational support. I'm really excited to see what kind of questions you have and be able to support you in any way I can.
Thank you, Michael. That was a great presentation, and I'm sure the attendees enjoyed it just as much as I did. Before we dive into questions, I want to remind everyone that now's the time to get straight from the source insight from Michael McMillan. Great questions contribute to a great webinar, so don't forget to submit some questions. Additionally, we understand if you need to run, just know that today's session is being recorded and will be emailed to you within the next 48 hours. If we don't get to your question today, Michael's social media handles and information is available on the screen, so feel free to reach out to him. So we've got some great questions coming in. Our first one comes from Sid. Sid asks, what are some common challenges businesses face when transitioning from traditional customer support channels to omni-channel communication and conversational support? And how can these challenges be mitigated?
So that's a fantastic question. And I'll tell you, it's probably one of the more common things I actually deal with. When you're moving over from a traditional support environment, there's a lot of politics involved. Let's just be real. You're dealing with a lot of budgets, and typically you're dealing with a lot of personnel who are entrenched into the way they've always done it. The way to really, I have found is with our team is that when we go into an organization who's looking at bringing in new channels or automation into their traditional support environment, we really work to engage the front lines into our efforting. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who actually know what's needed. We can guess, we could say, just like I did, oh, hey, a web chatbot is great for your company. We have no idea. We need to go find out. And it's those agents who actually know what's actually going to be impactful for their company. So we typically will engage them. We will do surveys with them. We'll do interviews with them and find out where are those common gaps or the troubles that they're having that automation or additional channeling could support them. Are they hearing from a customer who says, I reached out to you guys 30 times in text and you never respond back to me? That's the kind of things you need to find. Once you find one common repeating pattern as you're going through your interviews and surveys, what I like to do is then we then partner up with a few of the different members of the organization. Again, it depends on how big this company is, to where we can then make sure we have cross support across the organization. So making sure marketing is involved with their communication styling, personas, communications team, making sure compliance and IT is right by your side so that they understand that you are fully engaged with them and they can step behind you and say, yes, we support this type of solutioning. And then as you roll it out, keep that committee involved. And I do say it as a committee. This cannot be a singular sole effort. When you do that, you're really going out on almost a lone wolf type of proposition. And what you're going to end up finding is you may get it in, but if you lose the support of the organization when it fails, because it will fail, it's not going to work perfect day one. That's why you need the support of a committee and multiple departments to help keep it going and understanding that over time, this is going to become great, and here's the solution it will become. And once you do so, we found that you can get a good track record built behind it over a period of time, and you can eventually get it in. But again, to summarize what I just said there, first survey, talk and interview, and third, pick one thing that is very common amongst the group and only implement that one thing, then move to the next thing. Do not try to boil the ocean because it'll never happen.
We have a follow-up question to that coming in from Tracy. Tracy asks if you have any tips on implementation when making the transition from one digital CX software to another.
Yeah, great question. Have a lot of coffee for late nights. It's one of the things I always say is you need to make sure I'm a very data centric person when it comes to these systems. I always want to begin with the data. So if you don't have a data analyst, I would strongly urge you to get a data consultant to come in and support your organization, because you need to make sure when you're moving from one platform to the next that that data can transfer correctly. Otherwise, you're starting over. And starting over is losing so much years of tribal knowledge and great information in there. So again, first make sure that your data can convert and have parity into the new systems. Next is going to be understanding to ensure adoption of these tools. Now, this is probably the main thing I can't stress enough. Just because you as an executive group or you as a management group decided to buy this tool doesn't mean your staff is going to like it. If you haven't gone through the process of ensuring and testing and doing a proof of concept with the new organization, you're a little behind, because normally we do that pre-purchase. So when we are advising and actually doing selectioning of new software providers, we force all providers to do proof of concepts with the organization. And in that proof of concept, what we're actually looking at is the adoption, utilization, and the ability for the employee to navigate the UI UX effectively, and how was the impacts to the overall customer experience. So really what I'm saying here is you need to do a lot of prep work to get all of your information ready. And that way you're building a training profile around where were the gaps, because there's going to be gaps. Listen, no system in the market is perfect. We jokingly around here say that they all suck equally, right? Is that it's just what is the specific demand for the organization. and then building training that's going to be able to empower your agents to win day one. What you need to find is what is that one thing, and this is going to be a common thing you're going to hear me say, is that one thing that is going to be the win for the agent, or the win for that frontline employee, or the win for the department this is supporting, or whoever. And what is the one win this is going to give your customer, and celebrate them to death. You cannot over celebrate them. When you see a review come on your Google reviews or Yelp or wherever you get your reviews, G2, and you see something that shows that win, you need to point at it, highlight it, and celebrate with your organization. And that will start building momentum, and those wins, both for your customer and your internal constituents, will allow for you to keep that momentum going to add more and more channels and tools to it.
Thank you, Michael. And if anyone has any other follow-up questions, go ahead and get those in. Our next question comes from Lori. Lori asks, how can small businesses with limited resources effectively implement omnichannel communication to enhance their digital customer experience?
Lori, great question. So what I will tell you is, with small businesses, the biggest thing is going to be prioritizing the most relevant channels for your target audience, focusing on delivering a consistent experience across those channels, and making sure you're really leveraging your cost-effective and scalable AI solution, chatbot solutions, to provide instant customer support. Because the biggest thing, what I'm trying to say there is that in a small business, it's typically what we find is that budget is the biggest issue, right? Is that we understand small businesses just don't have the manpower and the money to be able to just pour, I think it was Disney. They did $2 billion to create the wristband, at their parks. You don't have that. You can't even imagine what that would look like, right? To spend. So what you need to do is you need to make the most with what you got. Find a solution. I always say is start with niche solutions. Don't look at the big guys, look at the small guys. Look at companies who are going to really work closely with you and tailor your solution specific to your industry and business, because they already do it for your industry and your type of business. And the one thing I said there, which is so important, is consistency. If you are playful and you like to have a little fun on your phone calls, you need to be playful and fun on your chat solution or on your video solution. And you really need to make sure that that brand consistency is there. And the key with that is to remember, it is very uncommon for a person who is really good at giving good phone, as we like to say, to also give that same experience through your keyboard, right? Because this keyboard is a very different style of communication than me speaking with you now, and or me being on video with you now. But getting that consistency and training and testing and making sure that consistency is so paramount. And a lot of times what we find is for small businesses, this is a great place to engage a coach, like what our team does, or to engage a third party to come in and be able to help your organization frame up what your style of communication is, and then how to teach your whole staff how to communicate in that manner.
Our next question comes from Colin. Colin wants to know if there are any ways to ensure customers are receiving the same experience across all channels.
Great question, Colin. So this actually is going to go into a couple of great AI solutions out there that I am personally very bullish on and very excited about. This is really the big movement right now inside of the DCX and CX space, which is monitoring in real time what is both being done over the phone verbally, as well as what's being done in text, and doing real time quality assurance and coaching on this. There's a number of companies doing this both in the United States and abroad that we follow very closely, who are really blazing this trail. And the short answer is yes. So they've already built this out. You got everything from Amazon to IBM to Baltos to, there's so many companies out there doing this. And what they're doing is they're using, for the voice side, natural language speech processing to monitor in real time the two-sided conversation, understanding both parties or multi-party, and then understanding the voice inflections, how it's being spoken, the pace in which it's being spoken, and it can even scrub that against compliance and or best practice. And then the best part of this is the really great ones are actually then prompting the person who's speaking on suggestions of what they could be doing and offering at that point. This can be in a sales world. Think of like a BDR or a telemarketer who's actually on a call. You can actually prompt them with offerings that they might not be thinking about, but the AI system is hearing that they may be interested in. In a customer service realm, this system can hear and listen to if a conversation is going left, right? It's not going well because the two are conflicting in their verbal approaches, maybe through their personalities or whichever. It can alert a supervisor to potentially do a break-in or a takeover or a whisper message to the agent that they giving them the support they need. So long story short, there's a lot of tools, and that's just the voice. On the tech side, it's unbelievable some of the data that's processing out there. A former company I worked with, which was ACES, they do exactly that, which is monitoring all the different channels and then in near real time aggregating that data down to understand what is this doing to the customer journey, and then providing that full visual of that cradle to grave type of approach to what that interaction was. So from when the customer first touched them, maybe on their website through self-support, self-service, all the way through, maybe all the way to escalations to an agent on a phone call, and then out to what actually eventually happened with it, a product being shipped, did it get shipped, when it got there, UPS tracking, everything. So really giving that full end-to-end perspective on how the company did on that journey. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. And it looks like we have time for just a couple more questions here. We have a really great question coming in from Yvonne. Yvonne says, how can businesses ensure data privacy and security when utilizing AI-powered chatbots and virtual assistants for customer support?
So Yvonne, fantastic question. And this is actually something we get into quite a bit. So this goes back to where we were talking about is the partnership with IT. And again, depending on the size of your organization, if you've got if you're coming from more of a large, robust enterprise, or maybe even a growth mid-market company, if you have a CISO's office, a Chief Information Security's office, or CDO, Chief Data Officer, this is where it's critical that you're partnered with them very closely on these type of initiatives. Because as I said on earlier in my presentation, to be able to educate these tools, it's very important that you have that central data set. And to get access to that is going to require that you have the permission and authorization of both your compliance, legal, and your IT groups. Now, beyond getting permission, you also need to be able to well articulate what data you're going to need to be accessing, how much, and why. This is where a great partner becomes paramount. So when you're doing your RFPs or you're doing your research to find the service solution provider for this type of solution, once you have found them, this goes back to why I mentioned doing POCs, doing proof of concepts is a great way to show the broader organization how this is going to work. And when it comes to data security and compliance, for instance, we'll use healthcare, which is a big industry for us. In the healthcare world, we of course are dealing with HIPAA, with PHI, and so much other regulational aspects of it. We have very strict requirements on how we can integrate with their electronic medical records or health medical record systems. Now with what they call FHR, so FHIR. But the point is this required us to have close relationships with legal and compliance, as well as the team who own the data sets. And then also going back into the Epics and Cerners and other organizations who are providing these EMR and HMR systems to have that relationship so we can make sure we're understanding how we get to the data. And then finally, having great relationships with the potential provider coming in to have key specific information on what data they need to access it, why they need to access it, and what are they going to do with that data once they have it. Because typically the biggest question that's going to come up from your IT group is when they come and jump into our pool and look at our data, are they expecting to take that data and now move it into their systems? And if that happens, how are they protecting our data? If not, or are they just going to look at our data, learn it, but again, how much of that private information is going back, and then making sure that those providers have very clearly stated SOP, making sure that they have all their compliance regulations in check, and that they can prove it through a proof of concept. That's what I have found to be the most successful way as you start heading down that path, especially as you're having to expose sensitive data from finance or about your customers.
And our final question comes from Lane. Lane says, how do you see digital CX evolving over the next 5 years? With in-app support and support via social media being at the forefront, do you think over-the-phone support will eventually die out?
Great question, Lane. So this is a question I get posed to me a lot, especially with as many years as I've been in the call center industry. I see over the next 5 to 10 years, well, I don't even have to look over the next 5 to 10 years. I mean, literally, if you look back at just the last 3 years, you have seen some of the most dramatic changes in the entire support arena that the industry has probably ever seen in history. What we've seen is we, for the first time, have watched phone support actually become the lesser demanded support channel in most businesses. This is both in consumer and in business to business support demand. We're watching the fastest growing demand for text-based supporting, right? And like you mentioned, for in-app support, et cetera. Now, do I see phone going away? I've been thinking and pondering about this quite a bit, and I do not see it going away in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't really see it going away in the next probably 20 to 30 years even. The reason for that is because there are certain issues and problems that at some point it needs a voice to be attached to it. Really, and sometimes just for the simple sake to confirm what you just read is right, or did you miss a step? It sounds hilarious, but I can't even tell you how many times I see in a tech support arena where we're still, do you have it plugged in? Is it turned on? It's still a thing. Now, is AI on the way to do a lot of this? Absolutely. We're already using it. I'm replacing those frontline demands constantly. But what's happening is my agents are moving on to much more complex type of issues that require human to human interaction. I'll go back to the healthcare industry, for instance. In the healthcare industry, when we have systems that can completely automate the patient sign-up process and appointment setting. Well, when that patient gets their appointment set up, we of course collect their insurance information. And here in the United States, that gets very complex, especially as you get into Medicare, Medicaid, and the Blues and Aetna, et cetera. Now, we have automated a tremendous amount of that, but I will tell you that there's still north of probably, especially in some of our more complex specialties, probably about 50 to 60% that require a human to call the insurance carrier and confirm coverage types. That is a very complex conversation. That is not just your standard off the street agent who can do that, because they need to understand both the billing codes and the coverage demand and what the coverage types are, why, medical relevancy, et cetera. I'm not going to get into all of that. But the point is that is a human to human conversation that needs to occur. Now, if you go even 5 years back, I would bet my bottom dollar on the fact that you probably would not find a single medical provider out there who would ever have thought in their life that they could outsource that. But today they are in droves. So my point is I do not see live agent support going away. I see it continuing to shift into this new higher complexity to where we are seeing it, where I have agents who have master's degrees, we have PhDs, we have doctors and nurses. These are the type of people who are now working in a support environment where before we were more on the front lines, but now we need them in the back office helping support customers and helping to be able to provide that high complexity type of support. So what was previously maybe tier 3 support is now becoming tier 2 or tier 1 support. So we're moving the higher educated people down into the front lines because the old front lines are being automated through AI and machine learning.
Thank you. And that is all the time that we have for today. I hope you all learned just as much as I did. Thank you to our sponsor, Sinbird, and our incredible speaker, Michael McMillan, for taking the time to answer our burning questions and giving us such wonderful information. And a huge thank you to you all for attending. I'm Tori, and I hope you have a productive rest of your week.
Thank you, guys.